You're listening to Three Kitchens Podcast, a member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. Now let's get cooking, 'cause I'm starving. This episode of Three Kitchens Podcast is brought to you by Alberta Blue Cross. Even if you're a busy business owner with more meetings than hours in a day, you are calm and collected when your group benefit plan is taken care of by Alberta Blue Cross.
Your employees can manage their own health, dental, life, and disability coverage online, anytime, on any device, making it easier for them and for you.
To learn more and explore your options, head to av.bluecross.ca.
Hi, listeners. I am your host, Sarah Somasundaram, and I'm sitting here this morning with Erin Walker.
Hello, Sarah. Good morning.
And Heather Dyer.
Hello, ladies.
Good morning. Beautiful morning.
It's a beautiful morning. That is true.
We're going to pretend that the other stuff didn't happen this morning, and that's a good morning.
There we go.
Yeah.
It feels like Monday. It's following a long weekend. We're all kind of like, ugh, we had to get up.
Oh, I will get up at this time every day if I can get my kids out of the house. I love my children, but they were sick last week, and then we had a long weekend, so we have been cooped up in the house for 10 days together.
That's tough. Mm-hmm.
And
you need some
my
time alone.
Yes.
My brain is disintegrating as we each day it was like falling a little bit further than it already is.
Okay, well, we're talking about disintegrating brains. That kind of leads me to this article I was reading that I was going to tell you about.
You are kidding.
I like this.
It tends to happen quite, I don't know how, but these things happen without us planning any of it. Okay, Have you ever heard of the origin of the graham cracker? Where it came from, who created it? Okay.
I want to know this.
Sylvester Graham was a northeastern evangelical minister during the 1830s. And that was the time of temperance. People were advocating for women's rights and abolition of slavery and getting down on tobacco consumption, all these kinds of things that they thought were really horrible. And his bone to pick, so to speak, was he thought that sexual urges, carnal urges, were the downfall of Americans, and they were caused by your diet. So he was like one of the first kooky diet fad people, and he thought that this is where your disintegrating brain comes into it. He thought that sex more than once a month, and masturbation in particular, would drive you insane. Like, you would forget hairy palms. That's the least of your worries. You're going to lose your
hairy palms. That's funny.
Oh my gosh. Part of what he thought was causing these detrimental urges was a fatty, meaty diet. So the American diet, where people were eating too much fat and meat, was the downfall. So he sort of started this movement where he thought the diet should be more vegetarian based. He was kind of an early vegetarian in the States, and super bland, simply prepared food, no spices, no meat, no alcohol, no tobacco, not even pepper on your food.
No smiles, no fun.
Yeah, exactly. And no sex. So you're pretty much like, I think if anything, you're going insane from this diet, but I don't know. And so he came up with this sort of bread that was named after him, the graham cracker, essentially, he was really down on the fact that fewer people were making their own bread, and it was being made at bakeries in mass production. Right. Which, I mean, fair. Probably wasn't as good. Yeah. In many ways, it probably wasn't.
Absolutely.
But of course, the bakers and business people and meat producers, everybody was pissed off at him because he thought everybody should just live on vegetables and homemade bread, I guess. Okay. So white flour, he thought, was like the devil's food.
It's the devil's powder.
Yeah. He made this bland germ whole wheat flour loaf, which is nothing like the graham crackers that we know, which the Nabisco company later, many years, maybe even into 1920s or something, they developed, which is more like a cookie that we know.
I was going to say, they were like, wow, this would taste good with a shit ton of sugar in it.
Oh, those
all
heathens.
the things,
Heathens.
All the things that he said.
All the things that he said no to.
Yeah. And they put his name on it, which I'm sure just made him like roll in his grave.
He's spinning.
So was there no sugar in the original recipe?
Oh, it was just a bland.
Okay, this is so bizarre.
Bread. Yeah.
So bizarre. So listeners, we usually try to come up with a story for each other's episodes. And this was my next one. So I'm just going to say it right now, since we talked about this. My introduction was going to be about Kellogg's, the Kellogg's brothers. And it's the same story.
Oh.
No sugar, no meat, no spice, sex was bad, made people too hot-blooded. So they came up with the cereal Kellogg's cornflakes, except the older brother was the Puritan and the one that developed the product. The younger one was more of the marketing guy. And he realized that this wasn't going to sell unless they added sugar into it, and they fought. And so the younger one wins and they split, like they go their separate ways, and Kellogg's cornflakes with the sugar is born because of him.
Yes, I read about that in relation to this because that older brother was a follower of Graham.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's so funny. We do share a brain.
We do. That's so bizarre.
That's hilarious.
Okay, I guess I have to come up with another story.
Happening here? Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
That was really fun.
All right.
Okay, so the complete opposite spectrum of bland, not spicy, not meaty foods.
Can I guess that you're going to be doing something super meaty, fatty, and delicious?
And
with spice?
And, well,
spicy?
not hot spicy, but it's going to be a different kind of spices. All three of us have a mutual friend from Mexico who unfortunately does not like to cook. And I have been begging her for an enchilada recipe. And her sister is actually a trained chef. Unfortunately, I don't think that the sister doesn't live here.
The sister lives in Mexico.
That's right. This enchilada recipe, 2 years later, I still haven't got it.
I was really excited here. I thought you finally got the enchilada recipe, Sarah.
No, but and here, but don't be too disappointed.
Okay.
Here's the irritation when you start cooking a cuisine that's not familiar to you in your house, right? Because nobody around me really cooked Mexican food. And Mexican food in Calgary really has become popular in the last, 10, 15 years. Before then, it was very American. If you go to the still in the grocery aisles, if you go to the Mexican aisle, you will see those hard, you guys have to tell me what they are, taco shells, which are not traditionally Mexican at all. They're very American, they're very Texan.
Mm-hmm.
And so this idea that, okay, well, how am I going to get an authentic recipe when I'm not really surrounded by information about an authentic recipe, right?
Yeah.
And then you go on to Google and then they're like, everyone's got the best one.
Best one ever.
And they are so completely different from one another. And then you're like, where, what, how, what do I do?
That's when you have to start searching in Spanish.
Right.
Oh.
I have found if you start searching for what you want in another language, it's amazing what you can find, because then you can just pull up the translate if you don't understand it. If you just know a few basic things that you want, and if you know what if you're searching in Argentina food, you can go .ar, because that's most of the recipes are .ar. Or if with the lefse that I did, I was looking at Norwegian websites, and I definitely don't speak Norwegian, and I had to kind of...
You don't?
Come on.
I haven't learned it yet.
A to-do list.
Once I learn German, then I'll add Norwegian in. But seriously, if you just start messing around with other languages, it's amazing. You can find some more authentic food stuff. But I'll let you keep going, Sarah. I just thought it was a really good time to bring that tip in, because I have done a lot of that.
It's a great tip, because it's really frustrating for me, especially with Mexican food, which really in the last 10 years has become something I'm more and more into. When I first ate Mexican food, I wasn't big into it.
Because it was Tex-Mex. And it's not the same.
Yeah.
Probably,
and,
right?
And I found it like a little on the blander side. Maybe I was going to the wrong places and eating this, right? Like, and then the more popular it became, then the more options we had. And then there are good Mexican restaurants and not so good Mexican restaurants. And you can tell the difference.
I would even say in the culinary community,
Right.
that Mexican food has not been well respected or well known.
And Broken Bread touched on this when they went to a restaurant, and I think they had like a prime rib taco.
Ooh.
And it was a few bucks. And everyone was saying, you know, if this was at a different restaurant that wasn't called a Mexican restaurant, it would have been so much more expensive and anyone would have paid it.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, absolutely. But I feel like with all this new, cool, woke, I guess, lack of a better word, chefs that are coming out and talking about these things, I think Mexican food is getting the spotlight that it needs.
Totally.
We definitely have some very good Mexican food nearby.
Yes. Here, this family that I'm talking about, this Mexican family, friends of ours, we invited them over for Easter. And I had this big, free, massive turkey that I got from Superstore. And when I get turkey, it's my least favorite, one of my least favorite meats. So I like to do a different theme. Like I've done like a Chinese Thanksgiving or Easter or something like that. And this time I decided to go Mexican. And I was really, really nervous. And I'm
well,
like,
because you invited the Mexicans over.
I invited the Mexican people who know authentic Mexican food.
Oh my, I'd be nervous too.
Yeah, no
Even
kidding.
though they are so polite, they would
they
never say.
They're the nicest people.
Are.
Yeah.
They're really nice people.
You could have served them like Old El Paso tacos and they would have been like, oh, this is so tasty.
Especially
totally.
They don't cook a lot, right? Themselves.
That's what our friend told me. It's like, you know, Sarah, because I told her that I was nervous. And she said, don't be, because my family hates my cooking. They're going to love yours no matter what. Anyway, I started researching and started looking up recipes and what to do. And I came across this website that I'm like, I am in love with this man's philosophy, I should say. Chili Pepper Madness.
Okay.
And so, as you can derive for yourself, this is all about chili peppers, and chili peppers that have hardly any heat to a ridiculous amount of heat. And he puts this in all his recipes. They're Mexican recipes, they're Asian recipes, they're American, just across the board.
He just loves the chili peppers.
He loves the chili pepper. His name is, Mike. And Mike is my new hero because he even talks about putting ghost peppers into some of his recipes. And you don't have to do it. He'll give you options on how to make it milder or more spicy if you would like. But he says he loves spicy food and say goodbye to bland and boring food with my easy to follow recipes. He said easy, I didn't. He said it. So
it's okay. We know you'll make it complicated, Sarah.
But then call it simple, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I decided to then go and look at his website to see if he had an enchilada recipe, because I tried all of his recipes for Easter and the reviews were fantastic. And so I'm like, cross your fingers, and I found one.
Please tell me there's no ghost peppers in this enchilada.
There is no ghost
peppers. Sounds
peppers.
Scary. Okay.
And so I will start this with his description of this recipe is that the spiciness level is mild, but extremely flavorful.
That sounds perfect.
And
That's
if you look at
love.
all the peppers that he's using in it, they are very, very mild peppers.
Cool.
So let's talk about the sauce first, right? Because that's your big thing.
That's what makes or breaks an enchilada.
That's what makes or breaks the enchilada. So
Ooh.
Give Erin a moment.
I know.
She needs a moment to think about this.
I'm just getting my brain back. You're making me very excited.
I'm very excited. 4 dried ancho peppers, a very mild pepper. 4 dried guajillo peppers.
Sure. Sounds right. Let's go with it.
All our kids go to Spanish school, listeners, so I should know this.
Yeah. Sarah, just ask your 7-year-old when he gets home from school and
For some reason, they're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
4 dried chilies de arbol.
Oh, tree
So,
peppers.
okay. That just means chili
Tree pepper?
peppers.
Oh.
Yeah, our bowl is tree.
Well, I know, but
Arbol
is it really called a tree pepper? Is that the translation?
Maybe it's a small tree.
Okay.
So this is something I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to find a store to get these peppers. I actually have all of these 3 peppers in a chili powder form from Silk Road Spices.
Oh, nice.
So you've got the chili peppers, 4 of each. You've got olive oil, onion, garlic, salt, and water as needed.
It's pretty simple. It's mostly just peppers.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I think that's that smokiness. That's why it tastes so smoky. You've got like 12 dried peppers in this, right? And then for the chicken enchiladas, now he has a separate recipe on a shredded chicken that you make in your Instant Pot or your Dutch oven. You make the sauce, you make the chicken, then you get 2 cups of shredded Mexican manchego cheese.
Oh,
have you heard of this cheese?
Didn't we have a conversation about this one other time about where to find this, or am I just...
That's the cojita stuff. That's more like the feta-y kind of cheese.
What's this one like?
So this one apparently is originally Spanish, and it's a sheep cheese.
Oh.
But apparently it's so mild that you can replace it with mozzarella, which is what I'm probably going to do.
Okay.
Okay. Unless I find it.
Can you say that name again? Sorry.
Manchego.
Cool.
There are a few, I think it's a Latin market on Center Street, just off of like McKnight.
What's it called again?
Is it the Unimart or is it a different one?
And there are 2 of them. There's one in the south and one in the north.
I've heard that people on Facebook foodie groups say that that's a great store for any.
Okay, maybe I'll try that place.
I have gone there to find things that I need, and they do tend to have a wider variety.
He says any good melty cheese, cheddar, pepper jack, Monterey Jack will work too. Okay. Corn tortillas. You got to do corn tortillas, right? And the second part, I'm going to talk about a great corn tortilla brand. I just have to find out where to buy it because our Mexican friends brought it over during Easter. And I'm not a big 100% corn tortilla fan because of the stuff we have here. Wow, was this ever good? This was good corn tortillas.
Nice.
So this was something that surprised me about the enchiladas and assembling them.
Yeah.
Was that I thought, like when I go to the restaurant, you see that melty cheese that is on top of that enchilada. I thought they were baked.
Yeah, aren't they? I thought they were.
So apparently you sort of warm up the tortilla and you dip each tortilla into the enchilada sauce. You put the chicken on, you put it on your plate, and you throw the cheese on top.
Oh.
It's not baked, apparently.
I have an enchilada recipe that's like that as well. It's like a creamy enchilada, but I still bake it.
Yeah, I might still bake it. Who knows? And maybe I want that meltiness, right?
Or maybe put it under the broiler to melt the cheese.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
I imagine that might not be an authentic way of doing it, but that doesn't matter, right? I mean, the sauce seems very authentic.
I think the sauce is key.
That sounds really good.
Yummy.
Yeah. Only thing is, am I gonna make the rice with it? I love that tomato rice. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Spanish rice.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
But every time I make it, it gets too mushy.
Oh, there's some great recipes in the Instant Pot.
Instant Pot, hey?
Rice and canned tomatoes and spices, basically. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
Turns out perfect every time.
I think I might make it in my rice cooker. I'm not sure. Just to get that out of the way. But every time I make it in my rice cooker, it's like I add too much water or something, or the tomato really breaks down that it makes the rice mushy.
Oh.
Do you add oil into it?
I fry everything up first and then I throw it into my washed rice. So maybe I might use a long grain rice this time.
Oh, yeah.
And
I would recommend a healthy dose of oil on top, not mixed in. And don't ask me why, but I've put similar amounts of oil and mixed it into the rice. Right. And I find the rice is less mushy and more oily when I just do like a I would say a couple tablespoons of oil on top. But I cook in my pot, not in a rice cooker. So
Same
there
thing,
could
though.
be something different going on, maybe, since the mixing in of the oil seems important.
Right.
It's like, because that water's going down and the oil's sitting on top. So the oil doesn't hit your rice until your rice is cooked a bit.
Yeah.
Right.
And it kind of coats it in a way. I don't know how to explain this, but for some reason that's what works for me.
Right. Okay. And I always thought it was the tomato that was eating away at the rice.
I don't think, because I don't find that when I put it all in the Instant Pot. And you're not putting water in it. You're just putting canned tomatoes, I think, if I'm remembering right.
Okay. I'll have to go find a recipe, or maybe you can share yours with me.
I'll send you the one that I've used. And also, another friend of ours has she swears by her Instant Pot Spanish rice recipe as well.
And when you say Spanish rice, is this something that saffron goes into? Or are you talking about what the stuff that goes in the Mexican, like the stuff you find in the Mexican restaurant, that tomato rice?
Yeah, tomato. It's tomato base with spices, whatever.
Okay, well, let's see what this enchilada is, how they turn out, and what they're going to be served up with.
I'm excited about all of this.
Yeah, I'm glad you're making this. I love some Mexican food.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Park Power, your friendly local utilities provider in Alberta, offering internet, electricity, and natural gas with low rates, awesome service, and profit sharing with local charities.
In Alberta, you get to choose who to buy your internet, electricity, and natural gas from. If you switch providers, nothing changes about the delivery of these utilities to your home or business. If you have an existing contract, you're going to want to find out the terms before leaving. If you don't, then it's even easier to sign up for Park Power.
You as the consumer have the choice of who you pay your bills to. Why not choose your friendly local utilities provider? Learn more at parkpower.ca. We are back. And I made enchiladas, but I did not make chicken enchiladas. I decided to change it up to chorizo enchiladas because every time I go to a Mexican restaurant, I order chorizo enchiladas. And I was like, why am I making chicken enchiladas? I should be making chorizo enchiladas. So that's what I did.
Interesting.
So I'll tell you about the sauce first, because that is, I guess, what makes an enchilada an enchilada. And so I went to this Latin American grocery store in Calgary, and it's called Uni Market or UNI Market. So I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm calling it Uni Market because it sounds cool. And there's one in the north and there's one in the south. And I walked in there thinking, okay, I guess I have to look for these 3 dried peppers that I need for the enchilada sauce, which is ancho peppers, guajillo peppers, and chiles de árbol. How do you like my accent, guys?
Very
Not too
good.
bad, eh?
Muy bien.
Anyway, just to talk about Uni Market, it is set up so that you can actually buy food there, and it's got a grocery section as well. And as soon as I walked in through the door, the dried chili section was facing me, and guess what? 3 chilies were right next to each other.
Oh,
They were all in packets. And I just went, okay. And then I spent the rest of the time exploring the market because it's got so many delicious things happening there.
So you're saying it was love at first sight.
It was a beautiful place and it smelled delicious. And the people there were really nice. And I got a crumbly queso fresco from that store as well. And then I got sidetracked and got a whole bunch of like habanero and different kinds of chili oils that I will be using for other things, but you know, I had to talk about my chili oils because I love chili so much. And then I came home and went to the Chili Pepper Madness site, pulled up the recipe. You take basically 4 of each of these dried peppers and you toast them on a pan. And the way to know that they are ready is when they start to darken a little bit. You don't want them to burn. They will burn fast, so be careful. And because these 4 peppers are very different sizes, just watch, take the smaller ones out fast. Make sure you flip them. It happens within 5 minutes. Yes, Erin, who has her hand up.
Did you rehydrate them first before you put them in the pan?
So I toasted them first.
Okay.
Oh.
Right, because I think you wouldn't be able to toast it once you hydrate them because they would be wet.
Yep.
So you toast them first, and then you put them into a bowl with hot water, and you make sure the hot water is sort of covering everything. And you set it aside for, they said 20 minutes. I started making my rice at this point, and I think it sat in the bowl for an hour. I don't think there's any problem with it. What was nice about it soaking is one of the two peppers, I can't remember which were the really big ones. It was really hard to pull out the stem, but once it was hydrated, it just came right off.
Oh, yeah.
Which was nice. So that worked out. And then what you do in the meantime is you fry up some onions and garlic. And you let that cool, and then you put everything, so the peppers and the onion and the garlic and some salt, into a food processor, and you process it up, and you put that sauce back into a saucepan, and you kind of simmer it for a few minutes. And it doesn't tell in this recipe for how long to simmer it.
Helpful.
Go with taste here. You know what? I took a little bit of this. I found it slightly bitter, but very beautifully smoky. You know what I did? I took a little bit of sugar and I threw it in, which I thought made it really nice. Like, I really like the sweetness of that. Just do what you want at this point. I know sometimes that's not very, people get nervous about it. It's just a matter of, you want to make sure that the sauce is not raw. Does that make sense? Like, that all those raw flavors go away. So to taste.
I heard a tip on doing that. And they said, take a little bit of what you're testing. And if you think it maybe needs salt, take a little spoon and then add some salt in. And if the salt makes it taste better, add some more salt. If that doesn't change it the way you want it to, take another spoon, add some acid. Taste it with because if you just taste adjust the little flavor instead of going and being like, oh, should I salt this? And then adding salt and then knowing where it helps you maybe determine what you need to do. Like the sugar. Oh, maybe it'd be better if it was sweeter. Add a bit of sugar on your spoon with the sauce.
Great idea.
And so I've been doing that lately, and I can't remember where I heard this.
Was this
Samin Nosrat? Was this her?
Maybe.
I feel like,
but it's a good way to answer the question: is what does this need? If it feels like it's not right,
right.
And some things you don't add while it's cooking, right? Yeah, like you might add that at the end after you've taken it off, and
right.
Okay, so the rest of it then goes like this. For the enchiladas, I cooked up the chorizo sausage. Remember, chorizo sausage, usually the stuff that you buy at the store has salt in it, so be careful. And okay, so corn tortillas. My husband and I would agree that the corn tortillas that we have had in Calgary, we have never really liked in the past because, and I don't know if this sounds familiar to you or strange to you, but the way Play-Doh smells is what I taste in a corn tortilla. I don't know if it just smells, it tastes to me like Play-Doh. Not that I've ever tasted Play-Doh.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but I don't know.
I can say from a position of somebody who had to have her Play-Doh removed from her play area because she was constantly consuming it.
Okay.
It doesn't taste like Play-Doh because I have the life experience
of eating it. I don't know what it is. It's that smell of Play-Doh that I taste when I have corn tortillas. So as I had mentioned before, during Easter, we had a family from Mexico come over and brought these corn tortillas over, and I'm like, oh man, now I gotta serve up these corn tortillas and pretend that I like corn tortillas. And I didn't have to pretend. I really like these corn tortillas. They didn't have that aftertaste or that weird smell to me. They're called Don Pancho. She bought it in Calgary from one of those markets. So I don't think you can buy this from a regular supermarket.
Okay.
But one of those specialty stores that carries the good stuff. They're never going to sell the bad stuff there, are they? Right? And it's called Don Pancho whole corn tortillas. It says white corn tortillas. So I don't know if that makes a difference. I'm sure it does. I just don't know much about corn tortillas.
I don't
Past
either.
the fact that I love these. I really enjoyed these. So I had these corn tortillas, and what you do with these corn tortillas is you take your corn tortillas and you toast them. And when you toast them, they become pliable. Sorry, they become pliable.
You can also pile them.
Yes, that's right. You can. They are piled.
Yeah. Pileable, pliable tortillas.
Whoa, guys.
I know. We did go to school, guys, and we didn't do that badly.
It's been a while.
Yes, but then we had children.
Yeah.
And
now we're dealing with a bowl of spaghetti upstairs. All right.
And then you take this pliable tortilla, and you smother it in the sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't quite smother it in the sauce because I wasn't sure if it was too spicy for anyone, right? So I just basically spread a little sauce and I made sure that all of the tortilla was covered. Then you put the filling in, you wrap it, and you put it into a baking dish. And on the baking dish, I put some shredded cheese. It's one of those like cheese mixes that are already shredded that came in a bag. I put some of that on. And then I put some of the queso fresco on top of that. And I just broiled it for a few minutes to just crisp up that cheese. I did talk about the chorizo being the filling, but I also made something called a Mexican rice. And I just want to talk about this really quickly because this was actually one of my favorite parts of the dish. I really enjoyed this rice.
It definitely completed.
So what I ended up doing is I made this Mexican rice from downshiftology.com, and it's called Mexican rice on her site. And she does talk about a difference between Spanish rice and Mexican rice. And this difference is basically Spanish rice uses saffron, Mexican rice uses cumin. Cumin. Sorry, cumin. Okay, I'm going to give you a few tips here so that your rice does not turn out soggy. Okay, I doubled this recipe because I was cooking for a few people, and you use long grain white rice. You wash the rice, but then this is what I would do if you are planning this ahead. And I take it that enchilada recipe is something you're going to be planning ahead. Wash it, strain it, and let it dry for a bit while you're doing other things. Maybe do that in the morning and you're cooking up the rice in the evening or something like that. Heat up some onions, garlic, peppers, jalapenos, and then you toss in the rice and you saute the rice till they become golden brown. And then you add your cumin, salt, tomato sauce, chicken broth. My opinion, cut it in half with this recipe. Otherwise, it'll become too soggy.
What was the ratio of rice to broth?
The rice to broth. So for 1 cup of white rice, she wanted 1 cup of broth and 1 small can of tomato sauce. And I just thought it was like, when I saw the amount of liquid going in there, it looked like it was a lot to me. So, and I thought I could always add later, it wouldn't be a problem. And you know what? This rice was not soggy. This is the first time I was able to get tomato rice without it being soggy. And then I mixed that with the chorizo, and that's what the filling was for the enchiladas. For you guys, when I packed it, I packed 2 enchiladas that had the chorizo and the rice, and then I also put some rice on the side
that's
of it with some cheese on top. And this would be great topped with cilantro and sour cream and guacamole. You can do whatever you want with it. Okay, your turn. Give your reviews, peoples.
This was so delicious. And honestly, I was like, what's the meat? I don't know what this meat is. I did not recognize it as chorizo. And I think it's because it didn't seem spicy to me. And I always think chorizo is spicy.
Right.
It was delicious, but I wasn't sure what it was. I knew it was not chicken. I wasn't exactly sure. I'm like, oh, she did something different, but I don't know what.
Right.
And I love that sauce. I actually, because you gave us a little extra, I just once I tasted a bite, I was like, no, put the sauce over the whole thing.
Oh, you did. Good.
Loved it. And my husband ate half and I ate the other half, and we both just were like, yep, more sauce. Just
Now,
load it
your
up.
husband doesn't like goat cheese, correct?
Right.
Now, what did he think about the queso fresco?
He didn't comment on it.
I don't know if it's
I
a
have no
goat
idea.
or but it's very feta-ish.
It tastes like more like feta than
Yeah,
a goat
if it
cheese.
tasted like goat cheese, I think he would have sniffed that out right
Okay.
away. He makes a big deal of gagging.
Because
and-
there's goat feta and there's cow feta. So
yeah, it's
I
very
wasn't-
different.
Yeah.
I would say.
Okay.
I thought it was so delicious, and
Okay.
the rice was. I mean, not that I expected soggy rice, but you're right. It was nice and like fluffy, kind
Yeah.
of, and
Mm-hmm.
really tasty. Yeah. As usual, I wanted more.
Yeah.
But that's just because it was so good, and I was sharing.
You were
So,
sharing. I thought I gave you a nice, good, big, massive plate for lunch. I'm like, hey, you know what? I packed this so well. They can't ask for more because it's.
That's only because I was sharing.
Yeah.
If it was just me, that would have been like that. The half of it was just fine. It was just because it was so delicious that I was like,
Right,
oh,
right.
I want to eat
Mhm,
more
mhm.
of that. I don't have a lot of self-control. If it's tasty, I just
None
want
of
to
us
keep
do
eating.
with each other's recipes, that's for sure.
So I would also say I did not share, but I wanted more.
Oh, okay.
Because I know you gave it to me and you're like, this should be enough. And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, this totally looks like enough. And my first thought when I was done was, I wish I had more.
Yeah, just one more. Just
It
one
was-
more little.
I just loved the flavor in it. I loved the sauce. I don't think you had even left the house and like I had opened the jar and stuck my finger in to try the sauce.
Oh, yeah.
So tasty.
Mm-hmm.
When I unwrapped it to go heat it up, the first thing I noticed was that cheese that you put on top. And I was like, I sniffed it out very curiously. Like I was like, oh, is this the cojita cheese? And
No, it was.
I was like, doesn't smell sour enough. And I tasted it and I was like, no, it doesn't taste sour enough. So I was like, oh, good. But it heated up great. I saved the sauce. I just had a chicken enchilada for lunch using.
Okay.
I honestly, I had some chicken I made up. I used the enchilada sauce. I have a chickpea roti, and I had some avocado and tomato and some fresh spinach, and I just put it all together. And I'm making myself lunch. It's
You're
like this
killing it with
whole
these
new
lunches.
world.
Yeah.
And the person who hated lunch and would
person who
eat like
hated-
a
exactly.
muffin and
Yeah.
a bowl of leftover cereal and the whatever.
No,
Now she's killing it.
I've upgraded my lunches to the next level. Oh my gosh, so good. I love the flavor in this sauce with the chilies.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all in all, I don't think this was a difficult recipe at all. That sauce, if you wanted to serve this to guests or to your family or something you wanted to make ahead of time and heat up just for dinner, the sauce could be made up ahead of time. In fact, the whole thing could be made up ahead of time. You could put it into your oven dish. You could put that in the fridge and then put it in your oven and then turn on your oven and bring it up to temperature and then broil it. And I bet you it will be a perfect temperature to heat up.
Yeah.
Sauce was easy, right?
I really like that all these were easily sourceable at the little Latin American market there. So that's great.
I really, really wish I knew what each of them really kind of tastes like. It was very smoky. Did you notice?
Yeah, like what do they taste like when they're fresh?
Yeah,
Right?
that would be something
I
interesting.
think an ancho chili is a red poblano chili.
Because it was quite big.
I think those are the ones, because as you talked about this and you were saying ancho chilies, I was like, why do I keep thinking of ancho chili? Like it just kept running through my head. And we grew some poblano peppers a few years back and they didn't get red. And I think I remember wanting them to get red so they would be ancho chilies so that I could make ancho chili powder or...
It's so funny how the names change as they change ripeness, right? Like
Yes.
it's a funny thing.
Yeah, great dinner. I think it would go great for winters and summers alike.
Yeah, make it up ahead and freeze it.
You could totally do that and then just take it out of the freezer, defrost it, and then throw it into your oven. You're good.
That sauce.
Yeah.
That's the winner.
I made the exact same thing without the tortillas, and put the whole thing between burger buns for the kids' lunches the next day.
Oh, yum.
And it was so yummy.
Yes, good. The rice, sometimes if I have leftover Spanish rice, put it in on the tortilla with cheese.
Yeah.
And then fold it up and crisp it on put it in the lunches.
I'm glad you said that, Heather, because when I did that, my husband freaked out saying, "You're putting rice in between two slices of like buns?
It's
like,
good.
What are you doing?" The kids not like it's going to be too much carb. And when the kids came home, they're like, "Can you make us another one?" Because we really, really like it. It was so yummy.
I know you wouldn't think. The first time I put rice into like bread, I thought, this is kind of weird, but sometimes it's just what you've got. Throwing it together.
Yeah.
Nice. It was so good.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
The sauce really is the key to it, as you said. I think
And now for the fine print.
Yeah.
Remember, when you like, subscribe, review, or share this podcast, it helps more people find us. Thank you so much for listening.
What did you think about the enchiladas?
What are enchiladas?